Good evening. I'd like to call to order this meeting of the Urbana City Council for Monday, February 13th, 2023. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Ms. Wu,
Here.
Mr. Evans,
Here.
Ms. Hersey,
Here.
Ms. Colacetti,
Here.
Ms. Bishop, Ms. Wilkin,
Here.
Mr. Quisenberry,
Here.
Mayor Marlin.
Here. Next up is approval of minutes from the December 19th special meeting. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mary Alice, seconded by James. Are there any substantial corrections? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. That motion passes. Are there any additions to the agenda? I don't believe there are any. Next item, presentations and public input. We have no presentations scheduled tonight. If any members of the public wish to address the Urbana City Council, please step forward to the microphone, state your name for the record, and you have up to 5 minutes to speak.
All right, thanks so much. Appreciate it. Good evening. Everyone here, do you guys know who I am?
Please state your name for the record.
My name is Angel Johnson. I'm a Urbana resident. I'm a stakeholder in Urbana. I own my own home. I have a question. How come it is that every time we apply for a grant or opera funding, City of Urbana, Urbana County, any business we ever own, we never be respected? We take care of youth in our community. There have been new events, new groups, new organizations been funded. That's fine, and I'm happy for that. We live in Urbana, we work in Urbana, we have a building in Champaign, we donate funding of our own businesses to this community, different organizations. When it comes to Angels Youth Center, something happens. Ever since this, first it was Eleanor's Catering Cafe. We don't do funding. We don't give you funding. You can't have funding. Okay, that's fine. Why not? Because we're not going to give you our money. I took it. Okay, I stepped back. So, ARPA funding came, 2019, 2021. Now we're in 2023. Apply, ask me for everything. But we heard you're not a real 501c3. Yes, we are. Well, where's your paperwork? Where's your paperwork? We did it. We presented everything. Our good and standing letter, our gutter number. We shouldn't have to, because you ain't got to do nothing but go to the state of Illinois. Either you're in good standards or you're not. It's on there. A lot of you didn't even do your homework because y'all judge people. I want to know, and I want to answer, because I emailed y'all. And I said, give me a reason why we're no longer on that list. I was introduced to the list. Like, you guys can apply for grants again. You didn't get it last time, but apply for this ARPA grant. It's a lot of money this time, $11 million. I gave it another try, me and my family, and my organization, all of our staff. We have worked and volunteered for 8 years, okay? I volunteered for 35 years. but the people we come in and get out the community. We even hold classes for our social workers from the U of I. Never received a penny, never received a dime. 9:30 in the morning to 11:30 in the morning, boom. We give them a class, give them things to do, still no funding, right? In every media, like the news just loves us, just all the time in the news. You guys see us all the time. They tell you what type of work we do. Okay, we one of the highest academic groups there is. Yeah, we work with all the kids from all the schools. Even we have a child come from Thomasboro. We have that mother. I said, you get them here, we get them educated. No problem. It seems like everyone got hit by the COVID-19 funding. But when we said as a 501c3 nonprofit, good in standards, it seems like we just get pushed to the side like, oh, they're nothing. They're coming up with all this new stuff. They're coming up with just, they don't know what they're doing. You don't know unless you ask. That's first and foremost. I don't know what else you want, but I do want an email from you guys. Just tell us why we didn't receive the grant. Last time it was, oh, your grant wasn't good enough. Then you go back and say, oh, it was good enough. I don't know why I did what I did. I just felt like, I don't know. Then we request vans. Oh, no, you can't have a van. Well, why not? See, I'm not going to call names like y'all do. You know, y'all play dirty. But I'm not going to call your name, but you know who I'm talking about. Y'all know what y'all say on the phones, okay? I want y'all conversation to be held. I'll be back Monday night because I want some rules in order. I'm going to tell the public we need to put some rules on y'all because you don't play fair.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to address the council? Go ahead. Please state your name.
Sure. Angelica Johnson. I'm the executive director over at AYC, and I'm just coming tonight because we're just a little frustrated. Just want to piggyback a little bit off what Angel said. We've done this for a while, and I don't know, you guys may not work with children, but it's our passion. And it's frustrating when you can't complete programs or continue to do things because you have no funding left, because you're using your own funding to do things. Even if we would have got vans, would have been great because we can transport. Even if we would have got money at least to pay the rent so that we could continue to keep the children coming. But at this point, it's hard to keep going off nothing, basically. So I'm just here tonight to just get an understanding. I mean, when we were asked one of the questions, it was like about our religion, which I wouldn't come ask somebody if you're a Democrat or Republican because it has nothing to do with the job you perform here. It's off topic. So if we can get some answers, I've been a resident here for all my life. I'm 35 now, and we just love giving back to the community, and I think that's why we haven't quit yet, because I know these kids need us, and we can't quit on them. They don't get to see this stuff. They don't get to see it. They're home with their family resting and being children as they should be. They don't need to worry about these things. But we're out fighting so that we could continue to keep the AYC going. We're giving back to the community as much as we can. We're doing it for free. When parents need their rent paid because they're gonna get put out, we're doing it out of our own funding. When kids need socks, deodorant, whatever it is, we're doing it. It doesn't come from this funding, from ARPA funding. It doesn't come from someone giving us tons of grants. It comes from our own funding, our own money that we work hard for. So I understand that you made a decision, but if you can consider that the next time you guys make a decision, that people actually do this out of the kindness of their heart because they love to do it. And it's not a job. It's just something that we love. It's our passion. And I don't know if you all have passions about anything, but if you have a passion, you'll understand why we continue to keep going. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to address the council? Okay, we'll move on to council input and communications. Unfinished business, there is none. Reports of the standing committee, Chris Evans.
Yes, thank you. On behalf of the Committee of the Whole, I would like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda, which is the following resolutions. Resolution number 2023-02-006R, a resolution approving and authorizing the execution of an Urbana Home Consortium sub-recipient agreement, Champaign County Regional Planning Commission, tenant-based rental assistance for the years 2022 to 2023. Resolution number 2023-02-007R, a resolution certifying a community housing development organization for the Urbana Home Consortium, First Followers Chodo certification for the year 2022. Resolution number 2023-02-008R, a resolution approving and authorizing the execution of an Urbana Home Consortium Community Housing Development Organization Agreement, First Followers Chodo Developer 2022. Resolution number 2023-02-009R, a resolution approving and authorizing the execution of an Urbana Home Consortium Community Housing Development Organization Agreement, First Followers Chodo Operating 2022. Resolution number 2023-02-010R, a resolution certifying a community housing development organization for the Urbana Home Consortium Habitat Chodo certification 2022. Resolution number 2023-02-011R, a resolution approving and authorizing the execution of an Urbana Home Consortium Community Housing Development Organization Agreement, Habitat Chodo Operating 2022. And finally, resolution number 2023-02-012R, a resolution approving and authorizing the execution of an Urbana Home Consortium Community Housing Development Organization Agreement, Habitat Chodo Developer 2022.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved by Chris, seconded by Mary Alice. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Ms. Wu,
Yes.
Evans?
Yes.
Ms. Hersey?
Yes.
Ms. Colacetti?
Yes.
Ms. Wilkin?
Yes.
Mr. Quisenberry?
Yes.
That motion passes.
We have one more item on the regular agenda, an ordinance number 2023-02-004, an ordinance revising the annual budget ordinance, budget amendment number 6, an omnibus. I'm moving to approve that.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Moved by Chris, seconded by Jaya. Any discussion? Will the clerk please call the roll?
Ms. Wu,
Yes.
Mr. Evans?
Yes.
Ms. Hersey?
Yes.
Ms. Colacetti?
Yes.
Ms. Wilkin?
Yes.
Mr. Quisenberry?
Yes.
Mayor Marlin?
Yes, that motion passes. Thank you, Chris. Reports of special committees, there are none. Reports of officers, none tonight. There's no new business. Last item on the agenda is continuing discussion for the American Rescue Plan Act, ARPA funding. Just by way of introduction, before I turn this over to Will, last week, the city council came to tentative consensus for tentative ARPA allocations for a total of 25 projects totaling $9,950,000 approximately out of the $10 million available. And last week, council requested information on the distribution of those funding allocations among the 8 priority areas in the concept plan. And I'll let Will explain what happened from there.
Thank you. So I'll be pretty brief. Last week,
Please speak into the microphone, Will.
sorry, I'll be pretty brief. Last week, there was a request to see how much funding went to each concept plan goal. So I sent everybody an email kind of showing how many funds were allocated for each concept plan goal. I think the important thing to note for that table is projects could be counted twice. When it kind of came down to assigning a single concept plan goal for a lot of projects, it kind of became a tough decision. So rather than try to get too subjective in what's the singular one, we just decided to count things once or twice or 3 times if there was a significant component of that project that funded the goal. So you'll see there's a pretty good spread between the 8 concept plan goals. And again, with kind of, it's a little dicey trying to categorize every project, but the amounts you'll see here are roughly proportional to the applications received and the amount of funds requested. There's a little bit of variance, but overall it closely mirrors the percentage of funds requested. So that's really the only new thing I have this week, and that's all I have.
I would add, as Will noted, many of the proposals actually addressed more than one of the priorities. And then the other factor that we are dealing with here is that there were, this reflected the types of proposals we received. A number of the proposals focused on, we had proposals concentrating in the area of housing. We had proposals concentrating in the area of youth programming. A number of them addressing health and mental and physical health. So, and very few actually addressing support for businesses. So the distribution also reflects the actual proposals that we received. So, comments on this process? Information?
What was the balance that was left over again?
50,657. And based on the discussion last week, the consensus was to hold off on assigning that until we see how the contracts turn out, and it leaves a little cushion for working with as we move forward. So moving on, as far as next steps, our goal for tonight is to have final consensus on these allocations and give direction to staff to come back, draft a resolution, and come back next week with a resolution and the list for these final allocations. Once the list has been adopted, then there will be a budget amendment. That's going to take a bit of time to prepare, but it's important that we have these final allocations, I think, by the end of the month. We have some organizations who are leveraging funds, who are looking to fill in gaps, and it's important for them to have a firm number from the city of Urbana in order for them to move forward with their planning. And then, of course, once the final list is approved by the city council, then the individual contracts and agreements will be drafted for each subrecipient, and those will come before the council as well. And those contracts will have the conditions in that you requested to be added, and it's the last opportunity, basically, the final opportunity to approve. But for next week, we hope to have direction to staff to go ahead and prepare a resolution with the final allocations. Mary Alice.
So just a couple of comments, because I know that the public hasn't seen this particular thing that Will generated for us. So I'm just going to read through so that everybody in the audience and people who are watching can understand. Just remember that things can be counted more than once. So it's not going to total $10 million. It's going to total a lot more than $10 million. So one is the accessibility of public recreation space and youth programming, which is $3.3 million. Community violence interventions, which is $3.3 million. Housing costs for those that need it most is $4 million. Increase availability and affordability of mental health services, which is $2.3 million. Affordable food, which is about $750,000. Increased job training, which is $600,000. Relief for local businesses, which is $250,000. and infrastructure to increase community health, safety, future resilience is $4 million. So as I look at these distributions, there's obviously 3 that are pretty low on there, which is food, job training, and relief of local businesses, with the local businesses one being the smallest, which I actually think is fine. And the reason I think it's fine is because a lot of the COVID money went to supporting small businesses. That's where a lot of the emphasis was early on in the pandemic. I'm excited to see what the EDC can do with their microloans. I think that's a pretty exciting opportunity for that. It's a little unfortunate that we don't have as much for job training and placement opportunities. That said, there really weren't a lot of applications that covered that. I think Youth Build was probably the biggest one that covered that. Overall, I think that the distribution looks pretty good. There's probably wiggle room one way or another, but I just wanted to kind of give my summary of that.
Any other comments? Thank you for adding that. Okay, could we have direction for staff? Grace?
Thank you. I think overall, your steps you mentioned make sense with the resolution, budget amendment, and then drafting the contracts and agreements, which I imagine will be a bit of a process, especially with the ones that didn't get full funding, on how they think that fits with their goals. I think that, yeah, we do need to move forward. As unfortunate as that is, there were still lots that I'd like to, reconsider, but we've already kind of gone through and majority votes on those. So I'm curious about what we're doing with the remaining funds. I think it will be important to let the applicants know our decisions sooner rather than later for receiving funding or not. And I was also wondering if we could have a list of other pots of funds for those who did or did not, I guess for all the applicants. I don't know if we already have a compiled list of, point them towards remaining HHI funding, or the youth services grant, or point them towards some of those other funds that still have them available, and maybe a little blurb about it. I think that would really be great, because again, it's unfortunate the ones that we can't fund everything, and we can't fund it all the way, and I would like to at least have some helpful direction, because we do know of some remaining funds in other pots. Thanks.
Direction for staff?
I'm just going to propose that we take this and ask staff to generate kind of something that we can vote on, and then have staff go and work with each of the individual grantees. Grantees? I think that's the right phrase.
Subrecipients. And that-
Subrecipients. Thank you.
And Will is looking forward to being able to turn over the next step to the Regional Planning Commission for actually drafting the contracts. So yes. Is that a second?
No, actually, it's not a second. I have another question. I just want to clarify or remind myself of how we are going to track compliance. Is that funding part of what the Regional Planning Commission is going to do for us to document? I don't know if effectiveness is the right term, but compliance with the funding, help us with the federal government, making sure that we document what happens and that it's what we said it was.
Yeah, so RPC, so all subrecipients.
Speak closer to the microphone.
It's quiet today. All subrecipients will be required to submit quarterly reports for each quarter that they're doing their project. So the RPC has forms for them to sign out, and they'll be monitoring for compliance for federal regulations, as well as to our contract, making sure they're meeting any stipulations that we put in there, and making sure they're doing what they said they would do. So RPC will be reviewing those every quarter, and then generally speaking, the default method of payment, unless a subrecipient has requested otherwise, is quarterly reimbursement. So they have to submit all that before we get the money. So there's every quarter there's an opportunity to make sure that people are complying with the appropriate regulations.
So let me ask my question another way. Do we have enough money budgeted to reimburse the Regional Planning Commission for the work they need to do now between now and 2026?
So yeah, we had earmarked the $415,000, which covered 4 years or 6 years of
Okay.
program administration, which might be, if it's more than what they had estimated, that might be a reason to keep some of the remaining unallocated
That's
funds in
kind of
reserve.
what I was getting at, because I wasn't sure this far into it. I'm sure they've spent a certain amount of effort, and we could see how it's going versus the rate of burn they expected.
I think the one thing that was a wild card from the beginning is how many recipients there would be. So I think, there was an estimate that was made, and we'd have to go back and see, but how many people are on the list? There's quite a few. So that's a lot of.
25.
25. That's a lot of work. So I think that's a good question. We can double check that, but it may be more than they had anticipated. But what they had originally proposed took us through the end of the whole ARPA cycle.
Okay, I just wanted to suggest that that's another reason to be comfortable with having a little bit of a cushion there, because I know it's a lot of money that we put aside for that, but there's a lot of work yet to do paperwork-wise.
The accountability piece of this is very, very important, and that's what's been stressed over and over again by the U.S. Treasury. So we have to be accountable for how the funds are. Ultimately, the city is responsible, and we're going to be held accountable. So we'll do our best. So I'm looking for direction for staff for bringing back a list of final allocations next week, along with the resolution. Is that a thumbs up? Up, okay. The list with the final applications and the resolution will be made public. It'll be included in the packet for next week's council meeting. And with that, I don't think we have any further business before the city council, so this meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much.